Welcome back to BBB Adventures and the Builder Series at Frank's Place. In this week's episode, I'm going to cover the restoration of this steering wheel. This is the final product. It's mounted back in the car. It looks really nice. I'm super happy with the way it turned out. I'm going to go through the steps that it took to restore the steering wheel. But first, let's talk about why I needed to do that. At some point in Luna's history, this steering wheel had been repainted. I'm not sure why. I don't have any details about it. Obviously, it's a 60-year-old car and it had several owners prior to us. The surface of the steering wheel, when we bought it, it was sticky. It had this, it's hard to describe, but it had this sort of sticky film. It would absorb oils from my hands, dirt from my hands, and it just looked awful, and it didn't feel smooth. I tried polishing it, I tried waxing it, and it would help temporarily, but eventually it would get back to that awful sticky surface. And so I decided that the best thing to do as part of the Luna refresh was to restore the steering wheel. And so today's episode is going to walk us through how I did that.
It was important to get the existing paint removed or at least sanded down to a point where I felt like the new coat of finish would eliminate the sticky surface problem. Also, there were some areas where the prior finish was chipped or damaged, so I wanted to get the base surface as uniform as possible. And finally, I needed the surface to have enough roughness to ensure good adhesion of the new finish. The finger bumps on the back side of the wheel presented a bit of a challenge in terms of preparing the surface. I used a combination of abrasive products including a brass bristle wire brush, various roughnesses of Scotch-Brite pads, and various grits of sandpaper.
It's just the wind, buddy. It's just the wind. Disco thinks the wind's rattled the doors. Disco always thinks there's someone here. This is meticulous work. It's time consuming. You don't want to be too aggressive because you don't want to get a flat spot in the steering wheel. So you sort of have to watch what you're doing. Okay, got that section done. I'm just going to keep working around the wheel. Okay, I got the steering wheel all sanded, and I've got it set up out here to paint, and I've taped the areas I don't want to have painted. There's metal parts inside this hub, the steering wheel hub, that are part of the horn mechanism, so you definitely don't want to get paint on them. So I'm going to put this plastic prep, I'm going to wipe it down, which is a cleaner, and I am going to prime it with this universal bonding primer. It's supposed to bond to anything. So,
Unfortunately, it was a windy day, so I attempted to use a windscreen to help get the paint where I wanted it.
I just want to put a light coat on so I can see where there might be defects. It's not a very good day to paint. Wind gusts, but I wanted to get a first coat of primer on this so I could put my eyes on where I needed some additional work. When I do the final painting, I will either come out here in the morning or I will rig up something inside so I don't have to deal with this wind. Usually it's not windy in the morning, but I like to be outside where the light is good. So anyway, I think I got... Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing, silly doggy? You need to sit down. You need to sit down. Sit down. No, just don't chase the things. Sit down. Sit. He's a good boy. He's a good boy. Okay. All right, I brought the steering wheel in, and this is after the first coat of primer. It's had a good chance to dry. And you can see there's a few little spots here and there on this side, but in general it looks pretty good. But on this side, hopefully you can see, let me find a good, right here. I've got more work to do sanding, and I may need to get some sort of filler. Some single stage filler, not a Bondo sort of deal. I don't know, I gotta go figure that out. But yeah, I got a little bit more work to do on this side, but making progress on the steering wheel. I will sand it some more, reprime it, yeah, and eventually color coat it.
Thousands of tears later.
Here's the steering wheel. I had some little scratches, defects, so I got some of this glazing and spot putty. I filled in the scratches, although I just see another one right here I need to fill, so I'll work on that. But anyway, well, I'm about to clean it, put another coat of primer on, and look for more defects, and then I'm going to continue to do that until I'm happy with it, and then I'm going to wet sand it and put a coat of white. I'm not really doing too much at Frank's place today. I got some other stuff going on, but we were over at Dad's, so I walked over here and dropped the camera. There's Disco Doggy. Yeah, so Disco and I are here, and because there's not going to be a lot going on, it means I'm not going to be stirring up a bunch of dust. The steering wheel is ready for its first coat of color, which is going to be white. I'm going to use this automotive enamel. So I'm going to put a first coat on the steering wheel, and then we're going to leave so that there's not a bunch of dust to get in the paint. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry. I'm gonna get out of here. All right, here's an update. The steering wheel, I got the first coat of color paint on, and I had ended up with a run here, so I've sanded that down. Then there were a few places where there was little defects, or whatever you want to call them. So again, I've used some of this spot putty, glazing putty, to sort of fill those in. As soon as this dries, I will wet sand it, smooth it out. I'll wet sand the whole thing, and then I should be able to put 2 or 3 more coats of color, of white color on this, and the steering wheel is going to be close to being done. Oh, well, then I have to tape it off and paint these inner pieces the body color, which is my plan. So yeah, making progress on the steering wheel. Well, I've got the steering wheel ready for its next color coat. You can see where I've used that putty to fill in some holes. I really think this, I've also wet sanded this. I really think it's ready for its final coat of color. So I'm gonna do that now. I continue to work on the steering wheel, and I've got all the white done. I've got multiple coats. I'm happy with where the white ended up. Now I've got it masked off. So this is the steering wheel. These are the spokes. And I want this part to be body color, the rust colored of the body. So I have this pretty much ready to paint. So I got all masked off, and now I'm going to spray the spokes, the body color. And again, this is the paint that I got, that I matched with the truck. I got the original paint code, and the local paint shop in Idaho Falls, the automotive paint shop, was able to match it really closely. So that's what I'm going to do now. Well, welcome back. It's been a few days, probably 6 or 7 days since I was at Frank's place. We went back to Wisconsin for Mary Beth's brother's pig roast, which was really a celebration of the success of the Corvair convention that he was the chair of, that Mary Beth flew back for. So we went back, hung out with family, had a great time, talked to a lot of Corvair people. Yeah, it was a good time. But I'm back in the shop today for a few hours. The first thing I'm going to do is the steering wheel has had plenty of time for the paint to cure, so I'm going to polish it and get it ready to reinstall. Yeah. I'm going to start with a generic polishing compound that I had laying around. God only knows how old it is, but it'll work. Then I'll follow it up with some of this, which is a glazing compound, and then probably some wax. But this should give a very smooth, shiny finish. So. Can't get too aggressive with this new paint, but you just want to take the dust and high spots out of the paint so it's nice and smooth. So I'm going to keep doing this, and yeah, I'll check in with you later. Well, I've got it all polished. I don't know if you can tell the difference, but it's a lot smoother. Quite happy with it. So now I'm going to apply a coat of wax, and then I think I'm ready to reinstall it on the car. Well, it's done. Waxed, super smooth. It's going to be fun to drive the car with this steering wheel on it. So now it's time to go put it back. The problem is, it's been a very long time since I took this off. And there's a turn signal mechanism in here that has to be done right. And a horn ring, and it should be obvious, but I got all the parts up here. So now it's just a matter of remembering how it goes together. So I'm going to climb up in here and see what I can remember. Well, let's see what I can remember here. This is the thing that honks the horn. I don't really remember how this goes. Yeah. This goes in there. I wonder where this goes. I wonder if this goes underneath here. This thing I'm putting on right now is these things go into this mechanism, and it's what cancels the turn signal. And it looks to me like it can only go on one way. So I'll screw this to the bottom of the steering wheel, and then I believe this goes in here. Yeah, I think that's right. Why is this loose? Okay, I tightened the nut under here that tightens the collar, this collar on the steering column. And I've installed this, which cancels the steering turn signals. And I've put this is a spring-loaded pin that rides on this surface. And on the inside of the steering wheel, the other side of that spring-loaded pin is right here. And that plastic doodad, the plastic sheathing that it's on, insulates it from this metal. There's this spring plate, And so when you push in the horn, the spring plate deflects and makes contact, completes the circuit, and the horn honks. At least that's how I think it works. That's how I think it works. So I got, unless it, it wouldn't go this way. I think it goes this way. And then this, which the horn button snaps onto, yeah, it goes inside there. Got this little notch. There's a notch in this horn ring, and I want it, the bow tie to be straight up and down, so that's definitely the right way to do it. I'm worried I haven't got this thing right, so let's tighten up these 3 screws. Let's tighten up these 3 screws and see if the horn. Yeah, I don't feel any. Yeah, I think maybe that spring's backwards. So I'm going to take this back out. Turn this spring around. Shit. Let's see if that's better. Yeah, I spun the spring around. I still don't. I'm still not getting a lot of spring action on this thing.
6 hours later.
All right. After messing around with it several times, I figured out which way that spring goes in there. And now you can see this cup. You can push on it, and it acts like a horn. Honk, 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 honk. Okay, I'm ready to put the steering wheel on. Nut, washer, nut. Okay, I'm not going to torque this down until I have a chance to make sure that the steering wheel is straight when the car is going down the road straight, because that drives me crazy. And if I tighten up this nut, it presses the steering wheel on there, and I'd have to use a puller to get it back off. And so I think I can just leave it. I can still steer the car, and I can make sure it's right. Then I can tighten up the nut and put on the horn. So this job is pretty much done. Yeah, it looks nice. Nice new steering wheel. I'm guessing I got some alignment to do on this thing too when I get it all in its happy place and working right. Probably have some work to do there, but for now I'm pretty happy with that. I did ding it here, pisses me off. I may try to touch that up at some point, but okay, steering wheel installation check.